Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to my small farm channel. For those of you who don't know, I am JT Bear, and welcome to the long-awaited discussion on the economics of chicken keeping here where I live in Westman. In particular, in this tiny town in Westman that seems to have some really interesting rules and really crappy pricing. So we're at the back of my property where I've got the long shed and I'm starting to lay things out to build the chicken coop. Now, I want to build a nice sizable chicken coop, something that looks nice, but unfortunately, to do that properly, I'm looking at, well, a few $100s, and I just don't have that money. So what I'm doing is salvaging as much as possible. I've managed to find some actual chicken wire here. This is only 1-inch mesh. Potentially still a bit of a predator risk, especially as rusty and old as this particular round of it seems to be. But I'm just gonna say that's gonna be fine because of the price difference between free and, you know, proper 1/2 by 1 fence wire. The poultry netting, you know, this is just gonna have to do. Because of the local bylaws, I can't necessarily raise meat birds without raising, you know, more than a few eyebrows. We live on the edge of town. I mean, that is a field behind us, so it shouldn't really be a problem, but we do have neighbors, and we have to think about how they would feel about all this. Roosters, obviously, right out of the question, but assuming that I could raise meat birds under the wire, I'm looking at just over $3 per for pullets, which I believe would be young female meat birds, and these ones would be Cornish crosses, so I'm aware there's all kinds of issues that go along with those as well. But anyway, that's my cheaper bird, my $3 and change bird. Can't raise that. Local bylaws allow for 3 birds. 3. They wouldn't even cover the cost of gas to go and get them if I raised them. So yeah, that's not really an option for me if I was going to follow the local bylaws. I am trying to get elected to council so that hopefully I can change some of those. But until then, like until I get elected and or even after that, until the bylaws themselves get changed, civil disobedience is highly questionable. Now, if I don't make it in the election, well, then I've got less to worry about, and well, I might just do it anyway. Now, back in British Columbia, we used to live in the town of Penticton. 50,000 people, and their chicken regulations were no roosters. Obviously, one has to think about their neighbors, and you could have 6 birds. So I think my plan with the egg-laying coop, which is what's going to be in front here, is 5 birds. From my research, the average egg-laying hen eats approximately 0.2 pounds of food per day, so 5 birds, pound a day. And that makes it pretty simple for the math. I can get I think it's a 25 kilogram bag of layer feed for something like $15. So that's not bad. We'll call it 50 pounds, although there's actually closer to what, 60. And yeah, divide that amongst 5 birds. I've got, well, I got quite a bit of bird feed in every bag. Basically 2 months or so if they're only eating that. And because that is somewhere I can reduce my own expenses, I intend to do that by supplementing their feed with as much natural stuff as I can. This garden has an awful lot of dandelions, or I should say the yard has an awful lot of dandelions and stuff that grow on there. They're apparently quite nutrient dense, and from everything I've heard, chickens absolutely love them. So I'll be picking those, feeding those to the chickens. We put out probably 1/2 pound of good kitchen scraps every day, so that's, you know, the chicks will eat through a lot of that. That will definitely help reduce the cost of feed. But ultimately, what it comes down to is the purchase of the coop and recouping those costs. So if I were to build this properly, I'd be looking at like 40 dozen eggs to recoup my coop costs, and that simply doesn't work for me. So yes, I am aware the chicken wire is a predator risk. I'm going to use it anyway. I can get 3-foot by 25-foot rolls of that from the local home hardware for a whopping like $17 each. So that'll help me get on this project faster. As things upgrade, well, I can upgrade my materials then. As the chickens prove themselves, I can upgrade my materials then. There's lots of things that will help me upgrade it in the future, And of course, if we do have a predation issue, then obviously I'll have to do something about it sooner. But I've never really seen a raccoon here. I've seen a lot of hawks and eagles and all kinds of stuff like that. But where we're putting the layers coop, there's a lot of tree cover. And I've never seen one flying down in here. Now I've seen crows in here, so that's a bit of an issue. And I am going to make sure there's a top on this. We're going to put chicken wire up there too. And I'm also going to throw a tarp over it because it kind of matches the long shed. But basically because there's going to be snow coming soon, I want to keep the snow out of the coop as much as I can so that they can run around, get some exercise, and continue to eat compost in the fall and winter. This is kind of my plan, right? Like, keep the compost coming, keep that garden being built, try and get anything I can off the land for as much of the year as I possibly can. Which in essence is what we came out to Manitoba to do, to try and live off the land a little bit more, to try and turn our own hand into, well, being a bigger part of our own food supply. And that's the economics of living, isn't it? So, yeah, we're still working on Chicken-omics though, and when you get right down to it, I got 3 options for acquiring egg-laying hens. One is we can ask people around town if they happen to have any they don't need and or can part with, blah blah blah. We're hoping to take that route. Another is we can drive for about 45 minutes to a town just kind of southwest of here where they have hens that'll be ready to lay in October. Those are running 13 for whites, 15 for browns. I don't really see what the difference is there, so I'd probably just get the whites. I don't know, 2 browns and 3 whites. I don't know. Whatever the cash would work out to in that situation. But basically, if I got 5 birds there, we'll say 5 browns because 15's easier to deal with. That'd be like $75 plus gas. 45 minutes each way, hour and a half. I'm looking at roughly $30 in fuel. Our Jeep is not cheap, but I love her all the same. So 30 and 75, that's $105 just for the chickens. Now, again, we'll say, $2.50 per dozen eggs because that's what Fraser Moffat seems to be selling his eggs for, and I suspect he's part of why we have the local bylaws that we do. But I'm not going into that because I don't need to be starting feuds with other farmers around here. But anyway, so at $2.50 a dozen. Takes 4 dozen to make $10, takes another 40 dozen to make that 100. So, I need 40 dozen to pay for the coop. I need 40 dozen to pay for the chicks. It's crazy. Chicken economics living in a small town are absolutely ridiculous. So if the financial proposition is crap, you might be asking yourself, well, why the hell are you doing this then, Mr. Bear? And the answer is some things are worth it. I would just be that much happier knowing what's going into the chickens that are making the eggs that go into my breakfast and dinner and quiche and I love cooking with eggs. I don't like the way chickens are being treated in the factory farming situations, and I understand because of quotas, people that are trying to actively raise chickens as a living, they have to do these rather extreme things. It's almost impossible to meet government regulations and still, well, provide a happy life for your animals. It's kind of like they're working against the animals on this, and again, it's something that I hope will change in the coming years. But so yeah, basically to get going on my egg laying situation, I'm looking at laying out over $200, which I'm looking at somewhere in the vicinity of 80 dozen eggs to recoup, and that is a lot of eggs. But on the upside, if I don't have to upgrade the quality of the coop, that infrastructure carries on to the next set of birds or whatever. And if I do start throwing some meat birds into my situation, then hopefully I can recoup my costs a little faster there too. I may just grow them up in the long shed over the course of the occasional summer, maybe 2 batches of meat birds, sell some, freezer some, save some meat, right? Just occurs to me, I forgot to mention what my 3rd option was for getting my egg-laying hens. I can wait until the end of April, and there are a couple places that I could order black copper marin hens from, eggs, because they're hatching eggs. So I'd have to get an incubator, I'd have to order at least a dozen eggs, and then I have to hatch them all out and hope they're hens. Because again, we're back to the I have neighbors. I don't want to be that jerk who tries to sneak in a rooster, because there's no hiding that. You got a rooster, it's pretty obvious. So yeah, when it comes right down to it, I think the best bet is, as I mentioned, we're going to try and get some from folks around town. Failing that, we're going to end up driving 45 minutes, paying $105 for birds and gas, and that's just going to be how it is. And failing even that, then I'm going to have to order hatching eggs and hope for the best, or I'm going to have to order day-olds and probably kill half of them because they're going to be mixed, and I'll have roosters in there, and yeah, happy joy. So that kind of wraps up my probably less than brief chat on the economics of chicken keeping here in Strathclair. It's not a cool scenario. I can't wait until we do eventually get onto acreage. If you want to help me with that, there's a couple things you could do. Share the channel on your favorite social media site. The more the channel gets shared, the more YouTube puts it in front of other people. The more YouTube puts it in front of other people, the sooner I can get this sucker monetized again and start earning money towards these various projects. Another way you could help out is, well, you can join in the live streams on the JT Bear channel when I get to those, and super chats are always helpful. And or you can click that plate of peppers, become one of my Patreon members. There are a few people that have decided to sign on and do that. I greatly appreciate the help from them. There are a few different levels that you can sign up, anything from just $1 because you want to kick in, to $20 a month if you want to be one of the pepperheads and get involved in the monthly seeds that I send out to everybody. So yeah, there are a few different things that you can do to help. The cheapest one, zero cash at all. Just share me on a social media, guys. That's all I really need from you, and the rest will happen because of corporate greed. So help me milk corporate greed. Share the channel.